Chelsea versus Man City. Preview what we saw in training, what it means, and why Sunday is everything. Let me ask you something straight away. If Chelsea lose on Sunday, where does that leave us in the top 5 race? Think about it for a second. 1 point behind Liverpool, 6 points behind Aston Villa and Manchester United, a brutal run of fixtures still to come, and our star midfielder sitting in the stands because of a suspension. Yeah, Sunday is not just another game. Sunday might be one of the most important afternoons at Stamford Bridge this entire season. And if you are part of the Chelsea community, if you care about what happens to this club, then you need to sit down and read every single word of this post, because there is a lot to unpack. Let us start from the beginning. Let us start with what happened at Cobham on Friday morning. The boys were out at Cobham, and here is what we saw Friday morning at our training ground in Surrey, and the squad was busy. Liam Rosenior and his coaching staff had the players working hard, putting them through their paces with the Manchester City game just 2 days away. Now, when Chelsea release training images and updates like this, a lot of fans scroll past them without thinking too much. But if you look closely at who is in those pictures and who is not, you start to get a very good idea of what the team is going to look like on Sunday afternoon. So, who was spotted in training on Friday? Cole Palmer was out there. João Pedro was there. Estevão Willian was pictured, and that is huge news in itself. More on that in a moment. Marc Cucurella was working. Jorel Hato was involved. Defenders Josh Acheampong, Benoit Badiashile, Malo Gusto, and Mamadou Sarr were all part of the session too. That is a solid group. That is a group that, when fit and focused, gives Rosenior options. But here is what matters just as much as who was there. Rosenior confirmed after training that he has no new injury worries coming out of the Port Vale win. That 7-0 victory did not cost us anyone. Nobody picked up anything. And after a season that has been absolutely brutal in terms of injuries and setbacks, that is genuinely good news. However, and this is the part that hurts a little, 3 players are still not going to make it for Sunday. Trevoh Chalobah, Levi Colwill, and Reece James are all out. The game simply comes too soon for them. Reece James in particular has had such a tough time with injuries this season, and every time it seems like he might be close to coming back, something sets him back or the timing just does not work out. His absence continues to be felt, especially when Chelsea need experienced heads at the back. But the squad goes out there anyway, and from what Rosenior said, the mood in training was good, the players are ready. Now the question is whether the plan is right. The Estevão Willian return and why it changes things. Here is where things get really interesting for Sunday. Estevão Willian is back. If you have been following Chelsea closely this season, you know how much the Brazilian youngster has been talked about. There has been so much excitement around him, and whenever he plays, there is a real spark to the way Chelsea move the ball. But more importantly for this specific game, Estevão being fit and ready to start on the right wing completely changes how Rosenior can set up the team. Let me explain why. For much of this season, Cole Palmer has been played on the right flank. And pundits, fans, and analysts have been going back and forth about whether that is the right call. Many people, including former Arsenal man Paul Merson, have been saying loudly and repeatedly that Palmer should not be a winger. He should be the number 10. He should be the player who operates centrally behind the striker, receiving the ball in tight spaces, turning and driving, and making things happen in the middle of the pitch. When Palmer plays on the right, he is too far from the action. He does not get the ball in the areas where he is most dangerous. And with Nicholas Jackson now on loan at Bayern Munich, there is no real runner in behind for Palmer to play off anyway, which makes his job on the wing even harder. So here is the situation as it stands going into Sunday. Enzo Fernandez is suspended, the central midfield role is completely open, and now Estevão is back and ready to play on the right. That means if Rosenior wants to, he can put Palmer in the 10 position with Estevão covering the right flank. There is no excuse not to try it now. The pieces are all there. Will he do it? That is the big question, and it is one that the Chelsea community has been debating all week. Paul Merson has been saying this for months. Let us be honest, Paul Merson has been saying the same thing for a while now, and not everyone has wanted to hear it, but sometimes the obvious answer is the right answer. Merson came out this week and doubled down on his view. He said, and this is pretty much his message every single time he talks about Palmer, that the young England man should always play as the number 10, not on the right, not on the left, in the middle, as the creative hub of the team. Merson also made his prediction for Sunday. He is going for a draw, and in typical Merson fashion, he could not resist adding a little dig by saying that a draw would essentially mean Arsenal win the league. Whether you find that funny or not probably depends on how you feel about Arsenal, but the point about Palmer stands regardless. Here is something worth thinking about, though. Chelsea played Port Vale last week and won 7-0. In that game, with Fernandez already suspended, Rosenior did put Palmer in a more central role. But Palmer did not contribute directly in terms of goals or assists. Some fans took that as evidence that the experiment did not work. But here's the thing. Port Vale are a League One team. A 7-0 win tells you very little about how well any individual player performed tactically. Chelsea were always going to score that many goals in that game. The more important question is whether Palmer looked more comfortable centrally, whether the movement around him was better, and whether that could translate against top-level opposition. And against Manchester City, who press high and demand a lot of technical quality in tight spaces, having Palmer as the 10 rather than as an isolated winger could actually be a weapon, not a gamble. But what do you think? Should Rosenior start Palmer in the 10 against City? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this is genuinely one of the biggest tactical debates of our season right now. The Enzo Fernandez situation is getting complicated. Now let us talk about the elephant in the room. Enzo Fernandez will not play on Sunday. That much is confirmed. Rosenior made it clear in his press conference, but the way he spoke about it raised more questions than it answered, and the Chelsea community deserves to know exactly what is going on. Here is what Rosenior said. He said he made a decision, that he wants Enzo to go on and have an amazing career, but that he will not play on Sunday. He mentioned having 3 or 4 serious conversations with the player. He said it was a meeting about something serious and that there are still some obstacles to work through, but he would not go into the details. Right? So what does all of that actually mean? First of all, the fact that Rosenior kept repeating that he is not questioning Fernandez's character is interesting. It suggests that whatever happened was serious enough to be called a suspension, but that Rosenior is genuinely trying not to make this bigger than it needs to be publicly. Second, the mention of obstacles still to work through is a little concerning. It means the situation is not fully resolved. There is still something hanging over it, even after the suspension itself. What Rosenior did well was resist the pressure to reverse the suspension just because the game is against Manchester City. Think about how much pressure there was from fans to bring Fernandez back for this one. He is one of our best midfielders. City away is massive. The easy thing, the crowd-pleasing thing, would have been to quietly reverse it or find a workaround. But Rosenior did not do that. He stood firm. And while some fans have criticized him for being too calm, too measured, not fierce enough in how he handles these situations, the fact that he held the line here says something about what kind of manager he is. Is he too soft, or is he exactly the kind of manager a squad full of big personalities and young talent needs? That is worth debating. How the dressing room actually sees Rosenior. This brings us to something really fascinating that came out this week. A source inside the Chelsea dressing room spoke to The Athletic and gave us a genuine glimpse into how the players see their head coach. The report said that while players are always going to be frustrated when they are left out of the team, which is just football, there is real appreciation among the squad for how Rosenior talks to them as people. He is seen as a nice guy, someone who communicates clearly and honestly. From the very beginning of his time at Chelsea, players like Fernandez himself have spoken positively about working with Rosenior, and managing a dressing room like Chelsea's is no small thing. These are players with big egos, big contracts, big reputations, and big agents who are always in the background. Keeping everyone feeling valued and respected while still making hard decisions is genuinely difficult. Rosenior seems to have found a balance. He can pull a player aside and tell them something they do not want to hear, but he does it in a way that does not make them feel embarrassed or disrespected. That is a real skill. That is something a lot of managers struggle with. At the same time, some people feel he is too nice. The criticism from outside the club has been that he should come out in press conferences and be tougher, be angrier, demand more publicly when things go wrong. After a loss like the 3-0 defeat to Everton, some fans wanted fire and fury from the manager. What they got was composure and clear thinking. Which approach do you prefer? Do you want a manager who shows more emotion and intensity publicly? Or do you trust the quiet confidence that Rosenior brings? This is something Chelsea fans have been split on, and it is worth thinking about as we head into one of the biggest games of the season, the top 5 race, and why Sunday cannot be a draw or a loss. Now let us get into the cold hard facts of the Premier League table, because this is where things get really serious. Chelsea are currently in 6th place. We are 1 point behind Liverpool, who sit in 5th. Manchester United and Aston Villa are ahead of us in the table by 6 and 7 points respectively, which means the realistic fight for us is to get into 5th place, not any higher. But here's the thing, Liverpool still have to play tough fixtures too, and with the right results this weekend, Chelsea could move above them. One win on Sunday closes that gap immediately. But a loss, or even a draw, could see Liverpool pull further away if they win their own game. Opta, who are the big data and statistics company that many football analysts trust, have run their supercomputer predictions for the end of the season. And their verdict is not exactly thrilling for Chelsea fans. According to Opta, Chelsea are most likely to finish in 6th place. They give us a 24% chance of finishing there. For Liverpool in 5th, the chance is 34%. And for United and Villa, who are sitting comfortably ahead right now, the percentages reflect how far back we are from catching them. A 24% chance of finishing 6th, not 5th. 6th. That means, based purely on the data, Chelsea are expected to miss out on Champions League football next season, and if that happens, the consequences could be enormous. The Enzo agent warning that nobody should ignore here is where the stakes get even higher. Enzo Fernandez's agent has dropped a very pointed hint this week. The message was clear. If Chelsea do not secure Champions League football, Enzo could leave. Think about that for a moment. Fernandez is one of the most important players in our squad. He is our World Cup winner. He is the kind of midfielder who can control a game, who can dictate tempo, who makes everyone around him better when he is playing well. If we drop out of the Champions League race, if we end up finishing 6th and going into the Europa League or even the Conference League next season, there is a real possibility that Enzo starts pushing for a move away. And at his level, and with his profile, there would be no shortage of clubs interested. So Sunday is not just 3 points. Sunday is not just about staying close to Liverpool in the table. Sunday is potentially about keeping the best players at the club. It is about showing that Chelsea can compete at the highest level. It is about Liam Rosenior standing in front of his squad and saying, "This is what we are. This is what we can do." Does that change how you feel about the game? Because it should. The stakes are very real. What a good result on Sunday looks like. Let us be straight about this. Going to face Manchester City at Stamford Bridge but with a strong City side coming, while missing Fernandez in midfield and still without Colwill, Chalobah, and Reece James in defense, is a tough ask. Paul Merson thinks it will be a draw. That is actually not a terrible result given everything. A draw keeps us within touching distance of Liverpool. A draw shows that even without Fernandez, we can hold our own against one of the best teams in the country. A draw means the season is still alive. A win would be something else entirely. A win would change the conversation completely. It would put pressure on Liverpool. It would show the top half of the table that Chelsea under Rosenior are serious contenders, not just a team hanging around hoping for others to drop points. And a loss, well, a loss would be very damaging. Not fatal because there are still games to play, but deeply damaging to our confidence, our league position, and the mood around the club. So when the players run out on Sunday, they will know exactly what is at stake, and Rosenior will have to make sure he has them ready. The Man City game and what Chelsea need. Tactically, let us break down what the game might look like tactically, in simple terms. Manchester City without Pep Guardiola still play with a lot of the same principles. They want to keep the ball, press high when they lose it, and find their best players in pockets of space. They are technically excellent and very hard to play against over 90 minutes. For Chelsea to get something out of this game, a few things need to happen. First, the midfield has to be organized. Without Fernandez, Rosenior needs someone to do the ball-winning work and someone else to be creative. That balance is key. You cannot just have energy runners in there. You need someone who can receive the ball under pressure and make a good decision quickly. Second, Palmer has to be involved centrally. If he is stuck out on the right against a City side that will dominate possession, he will touch the ball very few times and have very little influence. But if he is the 10, if he is the player who the team builds through, then he becomes a genuine threat. Third, the defense needs to be solid and organized. Losing Colwill and Reece James hurts, but the players who are available need to be disciplined, they need to work hard, and they need to not give City easy goals. One clean defensive performance, one well-organized shape can frustrate even the best attacking teams in the world. None of this is complicated. But simple plans, executed with discipline and belief, win football matches. What the Chelsea community should do on Sunday here is something that does not get talked about enough. The Chelsea community, the fans in the ground, and watching from home have a role to play in this too. Stamford Bridge on a big Premier League afternoon can be an intimidating place for the visiting team. When the crowd is loud, when the stadium is behind the team from the first whistle, it gives the players energy, and it puts pressure on the opposition. After a defeat to Everton, some of the confidence around the club has taken a hit. Some fans have started to worry. That is understandable. But Sunday is the chance to reset, to show up, and to be loud. Whether you are in the stadium or watching from your sofa or your phone, the energy you bring matters. Talk about the game, share your predictions, get others excited, be part of the community that pushes this team forward. Because here is the thing that sometimes gets lost in all the analysis and the statistics and the pundit predictions. Football is about emotion, it is about connection, it is about a group of players and a group of fans believing in something together and pushing in the same direction. The John Chelsea analysis community exists because people care, because people want to understand what is happening, want to talk about it, want to feel part of something bigger than just watching a match. So let this be the moment. Let Sunday be the game where we all come together and back the team properly. Final thoughts and a question for you. Let us bring this all together because we have covered a lot of ground. Chelsea trained well on Friday at Cobham. The squad looks healthy, no new injuries, and Estevao Willian is back and ready to start. Rosenior confirmed Chalobah, Colwill, and Reece James are still out, but the rest of the group is available and working hard. Enzo Fernandez is suspended and will not play on Sunday. The situation around him is not fully resolved, and Rosenior has been walking a careful line between protecting his player publicly and being firm about the punishment. The concern about his future at the club if Champions League football is not secured adds an extra layer of tension to everything. Opta gives us a 24% chance of finishing 6th, not 5th. The top 5 race is tight, and this run of fixtures will decide everything. Cole Palmer needs to play centrally. With Estevao back on the right, there is no excuse. Put Palmer in the 10, give him freedom to find the ball and create, and trust that he will deliver. Rosenior is respected in the dressing room. He is calm, he communicates well, and he handles big personalities with maturity. Whether that is enough to get us over the line, this season remains to be seen. And Sunday, against Manchester City, is the game that shapes everything. Now, here is the question I want to leave you with, and I want you to genuinely think about this. Do you believe Liam Rosenior is the right manager to take Chelsea into next season, whether that is in the Champions League or not? And if Chelsea miss out on the top five, does he deserve to keep the job? There is no easy answer, there is no right or wrong here, but it is the conversation the Chelsea community needs to start having honestly. Drop your thoughts below, share this with fellow Blues fans, and on Sunday, wherever you are watching from, shout loud for the boys. Come on, Chelsea, the top five is still ours to fight for.